Deadman here with your buzz for March 1st, 2009. Glad to be back, and I am about to go off on a pretty big rant here because I'm pissed off. You see, all last week I've been out at a conference listening to some of my esteemed colleagues from Wall Street bitch and moan about Obama and his economic plans and his budget. They believe he is going to destroy this country's economy by undermining its capitalist roots and creating some sort of socialist system. He is, they feel, declaring war on the wealthy. Are you fucking kidding me? This economy is already destroyed, and Obama inherited this mess, created in large part due to the policies of the previous administration. The trickle-down economics, the constant deregulation, the costly, ineffective, unilateral military entanglements, and the complete lack of fiscal discipline have been tried. And this is the damage they have wrought. Obama is just dealing with the cards he's been handed. And a war on the wealthy? Is that a joke? If anything, the only thing Obama has done this week is call a ceasefire on the war to this country's poor and middle class that our government has engaged in for most of the past 8 years. Wall Street types may have been raking it in, but the vast majority of Americans have seen their incomes stagnate, their wealth increased only by the illusionary, ephemeral gains of the stock and housing markets. Most Americans are working harder for less. Families where both spouses have had to take jobs, or sometimes multiple jobs, merely for the health insurance, or to pay for basic necessities, or fundamental rights like their kids' education, only to often watch some of those very same jobs get shipped overseas and outsourced for even cheaper labor. Look, I am normally an economic conservative, I swear. I believe free market capitalism is by far the best economic system we have. I think it does a much better, more efficient job at allocating resources than our government will ever do. But I also believe that free market capitalism has some limitations. While it does create a higher overall standard of living for an economy, pure capitalism also pushes aside significant portions of the population, the quote-unquote have-nots, who cannot maintain a decent standard of living. And in my opinion, the government has an obligation to step in there, not only for reasons of decency and humanity, but also for the more selfish purpose of promoting societal stability. Because just as bloggers need readers or viewers, capital creators need well-compensated laborers and healthy consumers. Other system doesn't work. And I also believe that because of its singular and brutally efficient focus on the bottom line as the only metric worth measuring, that free market capitalism ignores or undervalues certain characteristics which also contribute to a meaningful and fulfilling life. Things like environment, leisure, education, physical health. And I think Obama's budget is merely an attempt to try and restore some of that balance, to reinvest in some of those very areas that have been woefully neglected during the past 8 years. Take a look at the budget. Really look at it. It is chock full of laudable and bold initiatives. A revamping of the college loan system and increased educational funding throughout. A carbon cap and trade system. Universal health care. Increased science research, including more money for curing cancer, a high-speed rail investment. The list goes on and on. And more importantly, nothing in the budget should come as a surprise because it's exactly the platform that Obama ran on in last year's election. And it's the type of change that American voters chose to embrace by electing Obama and a significant majority of Democrats to Washington. This is the New Deal that I expected from Obama. But it's not going to come cheap. And the money has got to come from somewhere other than taking on more debt and further burdening future generations of Americans. I believe Obama should have been more proactive about cutting spending. I think he dropped the ball there. But even with significant cuts in programs, you would still need to increase taxes on people who can most afford it. And again, this shouldn't be a surprise either, because it's also what Obama ran on in last year's election, rolling back the Bush tax cuts. But the other side just says you can't raise taxes during a recession. Well, these tax cuts are actually being phased in gradually, and most won't hit until Obama assumes the economy has begun to recover. Now, I happen to think that those projections are optimistic. I think we're due for a significant and prolonged shitstorm. But in the budget, the tax hikes don't come until the economy starts to recover. But the other side screams, well, you can't raise taxes on the most creative entrepreneurial segment of your population. I'm assuming they're not talking about the type of folks who got us into this mess by pursuing wealth and returns without any regard for risk. Well, the other side screams that increased taxes will stifle innovation and investment. Well, that is true at some point, but I happen to think that merely rolling back the highest levels of marginal tax rates to levels that were seen during the Clinton years isn't going to be that magical breaking point where all investment and innovation stops. People will still pursue the American dream. Well, they argue that if you raise tax hikes, the most intelligent and wealthiest Americans will merely move to somewhere else where tax rates are more favorable. That's another argument I do not buy for 1 second, because I happen to think that America has a lot more to offer than comparably low tax rates, including the idea that in this country we look after our less fortunate neighbors and friends and family and strangers. And that sometimes that requires sacrifice on the people who have made it. And for the ones who don't feel that same way, well then good riddance. We'll be better off without you.